Guys, gals, and pals, welcome back to Paint and Talk episode 19. As always, I hope you've won the lottery since the last time I've seen you. I myself, I've been doing pretty well. I can't really remember much of what I did. I know I went to go try that Dubai chocolate that was apparently trending a couple months ago. I just discovered it yesterday though, and I went to go try it. I traveled far and wide for it, and it was very underwhelming. But outside of that, I've been doing great. Not that I remember, but I think I've been doing great. Today, I want to talk about a topic that I think is probably more important to a lot of us than we might think, you know? I want to talk about the past. I think the past is really interesting to me because I don't know why it's so interesting to me. It's always just been very interesting to me. I think as a kid, I've always had a problem with change. In just small ways it manifested itself. Like I wouldn't want to eat a different type of food, or I wouldn't want to I've always been very into doing the same thing every day for very long periods of time. I guess you could call it stuck in your ways, maybe. I think that's probably pretty accurate, but I think because of that, I developed this connection to the same or the past. And as I've grown up, I definitely have a way of romanticizing the past. I think part of it is because I'm very into history and things like that, for sure. But I think part of it's also just it's really easy to look around at what's going on today and go wow, the past was so much better, you know? And that's one of the things that I mainly want to bring into this conversation is this idea of romanticizing the past. Both on a personal level, but also on a very large level too, because I think I don't know. I don't think it's a hot take to say that everyone's doing it all of the time, myself included, all of us included. You know, we all are looking back at different periods and being man, it seemed so much better back then. And I think also on a personal level, we all have those periods in our life where we look back on and we're man, it was so much easier back then. I was so much happier back then. And that's something that just speaking on a personal note, I guess, to start off before I dive into a bigger, look at this whole thing. That's something that was always so harsh for me as I grew up, because I was I found as much as I was very against change in these things, I was also so no, I'll never be one of those people that romanticizes the past. I was I'm gonna grow up. I'm gonna make sure tomorrow is the best day ever. And not that I'm looking at my life being oh my god, I wish I could go back to 5 years ago, you know, not that kind of thing, but as I have grown up, I've realized it is unrealistic to expect this year of my life to be better than every year before it. You know, sometimes stuff happens, whether it can be as out of your control and as simple as people passing in your life, or it can be as in control as you just kind of losing your way a little bit for a year. You know, it's very unrealistic to expect life to be so linear. So as I've grown up, I think especially in the last year or two, I have come to romanticize certain periods of my life. Especially, and I think I've heard a lot of people say this, which is really interesting, COVID, for sure. Because it was the last time that I had just so much free time and didn't have to worry about anything. And I think I've heard this from a good amount of people. I wonder if it is a larger thing. But I'm so tired of talking about COVID. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm just so tired of every speech ever being and then COVID happened in 2020 and that shook the world. I don't care anymore, you know what I mean? I lived through it. I'm so tired of talking about it. But I do also romanticize the period in a sense. And it's weird, you know, because this is, I think, what's so, not hard, but almost dumb about romanticizing the past is I remember COVID, and I remember not being happy. I remember that was just a straight bad period of my life. Yes, I had free time, but I was, you know, playing Minecraft Bed Wars with my friends every day, and just sad the rest of the time. It's not that free time was being used to paint, I'm using my free time right now, or using that free time to write, or go into any passion that I had. You know, I didn't work out, I didn't have anything like that. So I was just kind of basically, I think that's why TikTok got so big, because I was just bed rotting all day basically, and I think that's what a ton of people were doing. And I remember the city was crazy during COVID. Actually, that's another thing. where like I remember walking outside and I've never seen the streets so empty, genuinely insane. But like outside of that, like I remember being like, not like, you know, I'm not gonna say depressed, because being sad for a long period of time is very different than depression, but I was very sad during COVID, and I distinctly remember that. So why now do I look back and romanticize that period of my life? And this is for everything, you know, like when you go away and have a horrible vacation, but then you look back on a year later and you're like, that was the best time ever. You know, I went to Dallas a little while ago, and it was just not like, it was fun, but like we didn't do anything. It wasn't fun. We just like sat inside. It was during this huge heat wave in Texas, and like being from New York where it's a little colder, I really hated that weather. So a lot of us just sat inside, me and my friends. That was like a lot of the trip. And you know, now though, for some reason, even though like that's a bad vacation right there. That's a bad vacation. You're sitting inside the whole time. That's a really bad vacation. But now whenever me and my friends talk about it, we're like, those were the times. That was the best thing ever. And like, I don't know, is it in our nature to look back at like kind of shitty times and go and romanticize them? Because this is the lens that like I take on when people talk about the past in general. Because like the way that the generation above us, above Gen Z, which, what is that, millennials? The way they talk about like the late 80s or the early 90s is so strange, because it's like we all know that wasn't just as perfect as they're saying it is. They talk about it as if it was utopia back then, and it sounds like things were better. I mean, like, there's definitely proof, like, economics and stuff like that, of, like, I'm sure the quality of life seemed at least more stable. You know, you could work a minimum wage job and keep your life going. So in that regard, like, yeah, I guess that does make it better. But also, like, you know, on social issues, we've come so far, and all these things, like, there are areas where that's just not good, like fairly objectively, you know? Not that anything's objective in that sense, but you know what I mean. Like, there are ways that you can look at the past and go, no, we've definitely improved from that thing, you know? So that's why I'm so confused about this romanticizing of the past, because I wonder if the way I do it is the way everyone does it. And I've never really, I mean, I've kind of noticed it with friends where, like, I remember them being unhappy in a time, but now when they talk about it, they're like, that was the best thing ever. So, like, that's definitely I've noticed, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Do you guys, like, would you say you look back on bad periods of your life? Not like bad as in, listen, obviously, if something really terrible to you happened, you know, say someone passes, I personally don't look back on those periods of, like, that was great. But bad is just in terms of, like, that wasn't the best. You know, I was really bored. I didn't have much to do. Maybe I was sad all the time. Maybe I was really out of shape. Things like that, where you look back on those times and you're like, that was the things I would give to go back there. Even though, like for example, from COVID to now, I've gotten in better shape since COVID. I have more things to do. I have a better social life now. You know, like, things in my life, and I think a lot of people can relate to, especially the social aspects of that, things have gotten, like, again, I hate the word objective because it's such a gross word to use as if I know anything, but, like, I think some things have gotten fairly objectively better. I mean, people aren't passing at the rate they were during COVID. That's definitely objectively a better thing, you know? So, like, that's where it's so hard for me to be like, why do we all look back and romanticize these things that just, by all means, don't deserve to be romanticized? Also, just to interrupt this conversation, I do want to talk on the painting real quick. So I'm going to paint Earth, right? Kind of like from an overhead view. Not the continents accurately. I don't even know what this would be. Just like, you know, green or blue planet, green land kind of ordeal. Because I want to try painting this, know the style you guys have seen me do for the last, like, week. I really like that style. I think it's fun. And I think there's some places I could go with it that are interesting. So I'm going to try it out every now and again, you know? And it also works well for this format. Not that I'm really scared of getting stuck in a style, so I'm definitely not going to do it all the time. But like I want to try it with some other things. One of those is a landscape, and I want to do that with Earth. My one thing is, I don't know, and this is, you're about to see if it happens or not. I don't know if I'm going to go up to the continent, like, exactly to it, or if I'm just gonna like let there be a white outline. Because I was looking at, I remember, I think it was Paint&Talk 11 was when I painted the guy with the orange body and the purple head with the blue background. And looking at that recording, before I filled it all in, I think it looked cooler than after I filled it all in. So I don't know. I also, looking at, oh my god, this was, I want to say 2 Paint&Talks ago, where I painted the side profile of the head looking at the purple body. So I painted the yellow on that background, just because I didn't have anything else that I need to basically get time done, because I ran out of things to paint, like, halfway through that Paint&Talk. But I think it was kind of almost a, to quote Bob Ross here, a happy accident, because I thought that looked really cool. I really liked the look of that. So I might try it again here. What I'll probably do is I'll do a cursory, like, go over through all this, just, like, trying to get some blue in there. And then if I don't like how it looks, maybe I'll risk it and do the blue outline. We'll see, though. We'll see. We're about to embark together. Back to the past, though. There's another, and this is probably the portion of this conversation that I think is the most interesting. I've gotten a lot of comments about it, too, just because by virtue of, like, what I talk about here and on my other channel, you know, almost not that I'm, like, a historian at all, but, like, I mentioned in the past a lot of, like, 50 years ago it was like this, now it's like this. That's interesting, you know, like, that kind of thing happens every now and again. So I've gotten a lot of comments of, like, don't romanticize the past, it's dangerous. That's a comment I got. Or, like, things seem crazier now, but they're really not as crazy as they seem. It just seems it because we're in the middle of it, you know? Like, things were just as crazy back then. And that's what I think is so interesting. Is, like, how... First of all, I guess there's 2 elements to this, right? One is, like, how is it that so many people live through it and come out with the single most skewed perspective on things possible? Like, it is much more reliable to go, like read accounts now of the 80s than it is to ask someone who lived in the 80s. Right? Or, you know, I guess depending on your perspective of it, because you could say, like, I don't care about those accounts, I just want to know what it was like. Theoretically, the person would be, but I don't know, we have such skewed perspectives of what actually happened to us. Kind of back to what I was saying of, like, even when things are really bad, we have a tendency to look back and, like, that was the time, or at least I do. I think other people do too, I believe. So, like, I feel like that's what happened. So that's one interesting part of this. The other interesting part is, like, things are crazy now, right? Like, I mean, look, TikTok getting banned. Not that that's, like, the epitome of crazy. I sound like such a zoomer saying that. But, like, we're in this age where there's more technology than ever. Technology is controversial as ever. There's, like AI being developed. We have cars that can drive themselves. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy what's happening. Not even to mention get into, like, the political climate of the world, which is in the weirdest place I think it's ever been, where, like, you know, everything's so conflicting. And we live in what I've heard called, I think is a pretty apt description, a post-truth world, where like walking outside versus what you see on the news. This is something that makes me so mad, actually. As someone who lives here in New York, I see probably 100 reports a day on the news saying, like, New York is in shambles. People are you know, it's literally a state of anarchy. It's not. This is what annoys me so much is like looking at the news, you would think crime is on the rise. You would think that like people are just throwing things in the streets. You would think cars are just plowing into Times Square. They're just not. Like, this isn't, you know, this isn't happening. So it's so weird. And this happens with a bunch of other things. Like, they always talk about, like, migrant crime and things like that. Not to get too into politics, but, like, they always talk about migrant crime. And if you look at the actual statistics of it, it's not quite as big as what you would think if you turned on CNN, you know? So, like, that's where, like, we do definitely live in a world where the truth doesn't matter quite as much as what the media is saying. And I don't know what to make of that. That's not really what this is about. But it just goes further to the idea that, like, we definitely do live, like, in a post-truth world. The truth doesn't matter anymore. It's whatever everyone thinks matters. What's that quote? I think it was in The Apprentice, when he was like, what's the truth? What you say it is, what you say it is, and what I say it is. Like, that's how it works now, you know, which is so weird and strangely frustrating. Not strangely, that should be frustrating. It's very frustrating looking at it, because it's like, that's not how that should work. Oh, okay, so it was looking bad anyways, with just the white being there, but I did accidentally just brush over to some green territory, so we're gonna go for it now. We're gonna see what we can do there. But the other, so I do think, like, we're living through crazy times. We are. I think that's a fair thing to say, but like, I think the question isn't if we're living through crazy times, because we can all look around and say there's some stuff happening. Like, what's the thing people say on Twitter where they're like, it's really things happening that have never happened before. Like, that's true. Like there's stuff happening that's just not anywhere near what we as a country or like even humans have experienced. I mean, you're watching me on a tiny little box right now. That's crazy. Like, that's weird, right? So we're definitely living through something of a crazy time. I feel like the question I want to ask more so, are they uniquely crazy times? Because that's where I think it's an interesting question. And this is something that when I was watching the Bob Dylan movie like a week ago, I really was thinking about, where I think it was the Cuban Missile Crisis that happened. They thought New York City was about to get bombed or whatever. You know, that whole thing. Like, everyone was fleeing the city and running. And it's like, the 60s were also a really crazy time to live in. I mean, you had civil rights happening. You had the Vietnam War. You had the Cuban Missile Crisis that happened in the middle of it. You had JFK we know how that ended. So like oh, speaking of JFK, when I was in Dallas, I just need to get this off my chest, actually. I feel really bad about this. So we're doing a JFK sidebar. Skip ahead a little bit if you don't care about my experience going to the JFK assassination tour in Dallas. But in Dallas, they have this thing where you can go to like the place where JFK, we know what happened in the car. You can go see that happen. I don't know why I feel uncomfortable saying it, as if it's like an elephant in the room. Like, we all get it. He was killed. Like, I don't know why I keep dancing around that. It's not like this is even new. You know what I mean? It's not like insensitive to say that. Yeah, me and my friends were like, let's go to the JFK assassination tour. We're like, that's kind of fun. It's like also like a little bit, not like funny, but you know where like when you do something with your friends where it's like, this is funny because it's like, why would we ever do that? You know, like something unexpected, something spontaneous. We're like, this is something like that to do. So we get tickets. They were $60 a piece, really expensive tickets. And we could see online, we were the only people that signed up. It was like 6 a.m. the next morning in the middle of, I think it's Dealey Plaza is where it happened. Not important. So it was really early the next morning. We could see online. We're the only two people that signed up. And I felt so we stay up that night. We're doing laundry. We had to get some laundry done. We needed to be in good outfits for the JFK assassination tour. That's not actually why we're doing laundry. We just needed to do laundry. We were up till like 1 doing it. And, you know, like when you go away with like 10 people crammed in a room and like you have one washer, so it takes forever. So it took us till 1 a.m. to do this laundry. We also went to get Whataburger in the middle of it. So that contributed for sure. But outside of that, it was mostly the laundry. And we wake up the next morning at 6 to my friend's alarm. And he turns over to me. I'm on an air mattress, and he goes like, we're not going to this tour, right? And I was like, no. Like, I just slept 5 hours. I was done. I was like, there's no way I'm going to driving to the middle of Dallas right now and that's the weird thing about, I feel like if you're not someone who's like explicitly in the middle of a big American city, you might not know this, but like the way a lot of them are set up is that like you can't just like walk there. Like in New York, I'm so used to like, we got to go to, this place from that place. You can walk there and be there in 20 minutes. You got to drive 30 minutes to get anywhere in Dallas, right? So that's why we were looking at each other like, no way we're going to this tour. And we just like go back to bed. You know when you're so tired, maybe this is just a me thing, like when you're so tired that like you can't even process the thought enough of like, I spent $60 on this. That was what was happening. We're just like, we're going? No. All right, cool. Back to sleep within 10 seconds, right? We wake up, I want to say maybe, I don't even think it was an hour later. It was probably 10 minutes later. My friend's phone ringing, and the guy calls, and he's like, this actually broke my heart. This guy calls, and he's like, hey, the whole group is ready to leave for the JFK tour. Are you guys here or no? And like, we knew we were the only two in the group, so we were like, oh man. Well, my friend was like, oh man, I was still asleep. I slept right through the phone. And then, my friend's like, oh, something came up, we're not going. You just made some excuse, like you do when you're skipping the JFK assassination tour. He makes some excuse, and he just puts the phone down, and he's like, I'm going back to bed. And I was like, yeah. Or I might have been asleep still. But then my phone rings literally the second his hangs up. And I'm so tired that I just like give him like a nod of like, go get my phone. And he picks up the phone in the same voice, and with the same voice goes like, something came up, we're not going to the JFK assassination tour, and hangs up on the guy. And I felt so bad because that guy did not get to run. his JFK assassination tour. Someday I'm gonna make it on my bucket list to go back and take that tour just for him. I feel so bad that we skipped it. I'm never going back to Dallas though, so maybe it'll be, maybe if I go to Austin I could make the trip for him, but it was a rough one. But yeah, the 60s were crazy is the point of all this. Like, imagine that happening, and then, like, you're in the middle of the Vietnam War, your president gets off. That was an insensitive way to put that. Your president, unfortunately, goes away. That was just as bad. Your president dies. He's assassinated. And then, like, you're still in the Vietnam War, and there's protests happening everywhere because we shouldn't have been in the Vietnam War. Why did we do that one? Really bad thing to do the Vietnam War. Don't do that. And then, like, you have, like the Red Scare going on in the middle of, like, civil rights happening. Like, that's probably a crazy time to live. So, like, comparing... What's the phrase? Oh my god, I keep trying to come up with the phrase in this episode, I feel like every 10 seconds I'm asking for what the phrase is. But you know the phrase I'm talking about, where it's like, there's decades where nothing happens, and then weeks where a decade happened. Maybe that's what's happening. It's like, the 2020s is not a uniquely crazy time, but it's just one of the decades where decades happen. No, because that's not what the phrase is. That's not at all what the phrase is. Because I feel like every week a decade is happening. I also think that, like, in a way, and this is definitely me being in the middle of the 2020s, and just, like, trying to find a way to make them special because, like, I'm living through them. Like, in a way, can you really compare... Like, imagine Twitter on the day JFK died in the middle of the Cold War. That's the whole... That would change the dynamics of it. You know what I mean? Like, the technology we have right now and the way that information spreads would really... It makes it, in a way, as much as maybe it's not, like, a uniquely crazy time, in another way, it is a uniquely crazy time. Yeah, so I think... I don't know, it's so tough if we're really living through a uniquely crazy time or not. Because I feel like I really kind of want to say we are after all this. Like, to me, it's starting to feel that way. But I also understand the argument of, like, no, it just feels like it... Like, I bet the people in the 60s were sitting there going, like, if you were around in the 60s, comment down below, if I have someone like that watching, because that'd be a great source. But, you know, like, in the 60s were the people, like, no, we're living through the craziest time in humanity right now? Because, like, that's... They went to the moon, too. Can we talk about that? They went to the moon. Like, Bob Dylan and Andy Warhol were happening, and then you turn on the TV and they're going to the moon. But I guess now, like, we're not going to Mars. That's not happening. I'm so done with this, like, this whole Mars thing. First of all, we got way too much to deal with over here on Earth for us to go to Mars. So that's really, that annoys me. Second of all, I feel like every 3 years, Elon's like, nope, this is the year. This is the year Mars happens. He's been saying that, like, since I was literally 2 or whatever. Like, I feel like in the 90s, there's clips of Elon being like, Mars is a mere 10 years away, guys. You know what I mean? Like, he's always thinking we're about to go to Mars. And, you know, we're not there yet. So I'm over his Mars shtick. You know when, like, you go through a breakup and then it's like, it'll be different this time, it'll be different this time. That's what Elon's doing with the rest of us with Mars. And now, like, I'm at the point where I'm kind of sitting here like, why even go? Like, what's there? You know what I mean? With the amount of money you put into going to Mars, you could have solved world hunger like 5 times over. So why Mars over just solving world hunger? Huh? You know, like, it's like, we don't need to go to Mars. There's nothing there. Don't we know there's nothing? I know, like, they found water or whatever, but what if we get there and like, that doesn't work out? You know, I don't buy it. I don't buy this whole Mars shtick. And I'm quite frankly tired of it. But there are a lot of parallels. Why did we go to the moon either? We just went to the moon to, like, try and flex on Russia. Which, by the way, we, like, didn't even win the space race. That's, like, not real. Because, like, they got everything else in space first. We just got a guy in there first. So, like, they pretty much won. Like, they kind of got us on that one. But, like, that... So I guess that also didn't have a reason. So if we go to Mars for no reason... We're just not going, though. That's the thing. Like, he keeps saying we're going when we're really not even close to going to Mars. Like, I wonder, like... I think I would guess the reason he's doing it, and I'm just completely removing any of the political stuff that's happened with him lately, because that's, like, that's not the point here. This is just about his Mars thing. Like, I would guess the reason he's doing it is just to, like, make himself seem like he's really close. You know what I mean? Like, Like, he wants to seem like he's doing a better job at this whole going to Mars thing than he is. But I feel like I'd rather him just be like, okay, we're not going to Mars till like 2045, but like we can definitely do it by then. Like, just tell the truth. There's no way he genuinely thinks we're going to Mars like this year, right? Because that was his whole thing with the politics too, is he's like, get Trump in office and we'll be in Mars. And it's like, okay, but like, I don't care if we go to Mars. I'm tired of this whole Mars shtick. It's really annoying. We don't need to go. We're cutting off Mars. So that's a whole thing. But the point is, though, like, I guess there's another comparison to be drawn there. So maybe we're just really close to being in the 1960s again. I feel like that makes the most sense. Even though the whole governing structure is, like, different right now. So I don't think that's another direct comparison. We don't have Bob Dylan either. And we don't have, like, Andy Warhol. So that's also not, so we're not in the 1960s. We're, like, I think we're in, like, 90% the 1960s. And also, like, okay, here's my official diagnosis. This is the official diagnosis. We're in 90% the 1960s. No. Like 80% the 1960s and like 20% the 1930s. Because the thing about the 1960s, I think also makes it kind of similar to right now, is didn't they have like a lot of new technology coming out? So they were like, wow, it's amazing that we have all this. That's definitely really close to right now. Like I think the 1960s were a big year for big decade for technology. So that's another point of the 1960s being now, but I think we're most close to the early 20th century in terms of like politics. So I'd say that in that regard, we're in the early, so I think we're in like 2 decades at once right now. So in a way it is uniquely crazy because they've never been in 2 decades at once. Those like pop historians on TikTok or whatever, like short form platform they go on, I've seen them on like YouTube shorts or something, where they're like you think 2020 is crazy, check out 1816, and they just list off like 20 things. That's not what we're doing here. We're doing this is real analysis right now. This is real analysis, and my real analysis is 75% 79, no. There's no percentages here, actually. That doesn't make sense. It's kind of like they're just like, you put a bunch of 1960s and 1920s in a pot, and we're about to get the craziest thing out of this pot. That weird group at the lunch table when you were in middle school that would just mix all the liquids they could find together and make a weird mixture and like go up to you and be like, look at this. Or maybe I just had that, but that was a big thing. And that's kind of what we're doing right now, but with these 2 decades. And hot take, I don't think this one's going to end well because those are pretty volatile decades. Those are decades where decades happened, to quote the guy who says that. Those are definitely decades where decades happen. And for that reason, this is not going to be good. Okay, so we discovered a lot today. I am like I am probably coming off crazy right now. I'm like half sarcastic with that, but like, I think that's also like kind of accurate in a way. So like, that's my take. So we've discovered a lot today. We're in the 1920s mixed with the 1960s. And it's about to be crazy. 1920s. Wait, they also had a lot of new technology coming out in the 1920s. Oh, and women's rights were coming too. Wait, is there anything else crazy? What was that, Gilded Age? So I think we had the like captains of industry or robber barons, like those guys, like the Carnegies and whatever. And that's kind of like the Silicon Valley guys. So maybe we're just in the 1920s. So okay, so I think this is where I'm at now. I don't think we're in a uniquely crazy time, but like we're definitely in a crazy time. Like, I think we're just in an escalated version of the 1920s. So, to conclude, rocked that. This painting came out okay. So I was trying to got paint on my fingers here, with some blue on there. So I was trying to do the lines going up to it, and I actually got some pretty clean lines on here compared to when I usually try that. However, it definitely also mixed in some areas over here where I kind of don't want it to. So this is comparative to what I've done a lot when I try and go up against lines. This is actually an improvement, but it's not enough of an improvement for me to say that it's good. I also do like, which I didn't make it too much of a pattern, but I like what I did with the ocean too. I think that looks pretty cool. So overall, I'm not too disappointed with this painting. So this is actually a big debate that I've been having in my head that I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on if anyone is, if anyone would like to chime in, right? So I am considering like a painting like this, which is really close to being cool, I would love after it dries to touch it up, just do a little blue around here, maybe add space or something like that if I want to make a full Paint&Talk out of it. I'm in like 3 mindsets right now with this. 1, make it another Paint&Talk, which would mean I wouldn't have 365 canvases by the end, but I would have a higher quality number of lesser paintings. 2, just do it off camera, because who really cares? And like me touching this up probably wouldn't even be 30 minutes worth of content. 3, just don't do that, because that takes away the authenticity from this. That's the one I'm most in right now. Of like if I'm trying to learn on camera in front of you guys, me doing something like that off camera would not be, not that it's like that dishonest. Like I know no one really cares if I make this a little cleaner, but I don't know, I also like the idea of seeing these paintings genuinely get better in my 30-minute time slot over time. Or 4, which is one I just came up with, is I could do like a mass episode of like, okay, I'm here, I have 20 different canvases that I want to touch up, and I just like go through them and do it, but I feel like that'd be fairly unwatchable. So I don't know. I don't know for sure. I think the camp I'm kind of in is like, because here's the thing, I do like the idea of having a smaller number of canvases or a higher quality, but even, like, a higher quality level of shit is still shit, and this is shit at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, I think it looks nice, but like, it's shit. You know what I mean? This is Paint&Talk 19. I've done this 19 times, and I'm not that good at painting. So, like, it's like me sprinkling more, like a little bit better looking shit on top of shit. It's still gonna be shit. So, I think it's kind of not worth it, but I also don't hate the idea. So let me know your guys' thoughts on that. I'm kind of, in 4 minds now with it. Maybe 5 will come soon. And until tomorrow, you guys know the drill. Go check this out over on the Instagram. I'm catching up. I think if I have my timeline right, yesterday you should have seen 2 posts. I'm just back to posting them on normal time now because I was getting too confused doing it in the mornings. So sorry for the little upset there, but we're back to normal posts. So check the Instagram. A couple hours after you watch this will be up on Instagram. And until tomorrow, the 1960s.